I still have this thorn in my flesh that I've asked God to remove 3 times, and God's answer is no. That's not the words in there, but that's what God told him. My grace is sufficient for you. Some things are a royal pain in our lives, but they're a royal pain that God doesn't take away. And we say, God, if you answer prayer, why don't you take this thing away? And God says, my grace is sufficient for you. Sometimes if he takes things away from us, see, God knows who we would turn into without that thorn. Paul himself said, so that I wouldn't become conceited. God knew that if Paul conquered this thorn completely, it just disappeared on him, he'd probably start thinking he did it in his own strength. He'd probably get pretty proud of himself. So God allowed him to know that he couldn't do it in his own strength, and that if he was going to overcome it, it was going to have to be through God's grace. Every day, Paul needed God's grace. Wednesday night with the youth, we looked at the passage where Paul was saying, I don't understand the things I do, because the things that I don't want to do, those are the things I do, and the things that I don't want to do, those are the things I do. I said that. The things that I do want to do, I don't do. The things that I don't want to do, that's what I do. It goes in circles about 4 times in there, and the teenagers are just, eyes are rolling, and what'd that say? And you just did the same thing. It says we know what we ought to do, but we don't do it sometimes. Anyway, it says we know what we ought not to do, and we don't. Anyway. And Paul was in the same boat with us. What gets you through that? How are you not condemned in your own mind when you know you've done wrong? Only God's grace. My grace is sufficient for you. My forgiveness does not pass away. And he will give us a spirit of self-discipline when we falter. Psalm 37, 23 and 24, which was read this morning. If the Lord delights in a man's way, he makes his steps firm. Though he stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him. The Lord upholds him with his hand. He will pick us back up. He will set us back and make our steps firm. Joshua 1, 5 through 9. They're moving into the promised land. Going to cross the Jordan. They're going to take this land that God has promised them. Moses is gone. Joshua's at the helm. And who am I? Because this was a humble man. Who am I to do this? God's words are, no one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. Those words are familiar, aren't they? Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful. And have I not commanded you? Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. When we struggle, when we falter, when we're afraid to go on, God says, who's going with you? When we are afraid to witness, God is saying, who called you to do it? It's me. I'm your God. I will never leave you or forsake you. And when Jesus gave us the Great Commission, he repeated those very same words. And along with it, he said, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Therefore, go. He sends his authority with us, and he himself